radio and television advertisements, suppressing rational judgment. Although in Australia the television industry code prohibits hypnosis, over the last several years television and radio advertisers have been using a number of subliminal techniques to bypass the conscious mind and drive content into the unconscious. Limit your exposure to these advertisements because they constantly tease and bombard your mind, which is mentally exhausting and emotionally blunting. I myself avoid listening to commercial radio whilst driving in busy traffic because I find the advertisements too distracting and I want to give my full attention to the road. I find I am also constantly taking one hand off the steering wheel to adjust the volume level. Raising the volume, compression. One technique is making the advertisements sound louder than the background programs. A favoured way is to use a technique called dynamic range compression, which amplifies quieter sounds whilst leaving the louder sounds within the permitted levels. This keeps the louder sounds of the audio within limits, but makes the audio sound louder and jump out at you. Shouting. A salesperson can shout or speak very loudly at a distance from the microphone, and even though the volume is no louder than speaking in a normal voice close to the microphone, you still perceive it as louder. The effect is increased where the voice is aggressive or urgent. Unusual or silly voices. Children's voices, blokey voices, dorky voices, animal voices. There is a wide range of unusual voices used in advertising which attract your attention more than normal voices. Jokes. Humour, particularly lame humour, is increasingly used in advertising. Unusual, illogical, irrational, absurd scenes. Ads are presented showing unusual, irrational, absurd, illogical scenes to attract your attention. Scenes such as flying saucers beaming up cars, animated lollies, people going up escalators the wrong way, animals talking, people flying, pink elephants, anything that offends logic. The idea is not only to get your attention, but to get the conscious mind to switch off, leaving the unconscious mind taking in unmediated content. After all, are you going to critically analyse a product that is being sold to you by a meerkat, a polar bear, or an owl? Repetition. Ads are repeated time and time again. This irritation, particularly where you hear the same lame joke for the 20th time, drives the message home. The advertisers do not really care whether the ad irritates you, just so long as it gets into your head. Not only are ads repeated time and time again, but some ads use the same phrase again and again. That is bordering on traditional hypnotic induction. When ads are repeated, it is not necessary to repeat the whole ad. Once a long ad has been shown enough times, the advertiser can simply show a shortened version and your mind will replay the longer version. This may embed the whole ad more strongly in your mind than playing the whole ad again, because the mind is required to bring the missing part of the advertisement out of memory. Archetypal symbolism. Archetypal symbols speak in the language of the unconscious directly to the unconscious, bypassing the conscious mind and activating archetypes. Rudolf Becker, in his introduction to the Continuum Encyclopedia of Symbols, warns, usually discussing symbols is a benign activity, one that points the way to the intellectual treasures of the past and revitalizes them. But unscrupulous use of this coded world can trap people and turn them into robots. The science of symbolism was highly developed by the Middle Ages, but with the rise of modern science, it fell into disfavour until being revived by Carl Jung. With symbolism, Put simply, the mind seeks out symbols from its environment to fit into the archetypal patterns which are mentioned earlier in this handbook. These symbols are called archetypal symbols. The archetype is a pattern, and the archetypal symbol is a symbol that fits that pattern. It is as though the archetype is a lock and the archetypal symbol a key. Some advertisements use Jungian archetypal symbolism, such as a soap advertisement showing a beautiful young woman emerging from the shimmering blue water on a tropical island beach, the symbolism of baptism or rebirth. Or an alcohol advertisement showing a young man, having survived some trial, being offered an alcoholic drink by a group of older drinkers. An initiation ritual. Archetypal symbolism is not limited to visual symbols, but includes ritual and motifs. By motif, I mean any element that has symbolic significance in a story. For example, the Grimm brothers' fairy tale, The Little Match Girl, is symbolic of schizoid withdrawal and can give us insights into the enchantment of video games. Switch pattern variation. Another technique to bypass critical thinking, which is being increasingly used in television advertising, is a variation of the neurolinguistic programming, NLP, switch or swish pattern. The way this variation works is to show a number of feel-good scenes, such as panoramas of natural landscape, followed by a quick flash of what it is you want to fix in the viewer's mind. So you see a beautiful tree, then you see a beautiful sky, then you see a beautiful river, then you see a handsome couple walking into the sunset holding hands. And all this makes you feel good, and you store these images in your mind tagged as happy images. Then you are flashed a product logo for no more than 1.5 seconds and immediately moved on to the next advertisement. What the advertiser has done is to store the product logo in your mind tagged as a happy image, because you do not have time to apply critical judgment to the image before the next advertisement, and the logo is stored with the same feel-good tag as the previous images. Attracting attention, disabling critical judgment. All these things, the funny voices, the silly jokes, the weird, illogical, irrational scenes, the archetypal symbolism, the switch pattern variation, are all designed to do one or more things: to attract your attention, to bypass rational thinking, to tag the product image as positive in the unconscious without giving the unconscious mind a chance to evaluate it. Subliminal flashing. Subliminal flashing is a visual sub-threshold effect. This is prohibited in some countries for some kinds of advertising, but the prohibition might not apply to non-broadcast material such as cable and satellite transmissions. Subliminal flashing involves flashing an image for, say, 1/30th of a second or less. The image goes through to the unconscious but is not registered by the conscious mind. One expert commented that it is far too rapid for us to be conscious of an image, and I would say that it's a deliberate attempt at subliminal advertising. Due to the sensitivity surrounding subliminal flashing, it may be that it is not used in commercial advertising, even where it is not illegal. I'm not aware, though, of any laws prohibiting subliminal flashing in video games or on electronic gaming machines. Also, I'm not aware of any prohibition on auditory sub-threshold effects. Thank you for listening.